there. Looking forward to diving in with everyone here today on another episode of UGC Workshop Live, where today we are going to be cracking the code, giving you the how-to for how to turn your events and your trade shows, your boots on the ground presence at these events, into a user-generated content bonanza. And we've got a great guest here as well to give us his perspectives, his own anecdotal experience, his strategies. Again, this is not just the yap hour where you listen to me and my cohorts throw a bunch of what and why at you and theorize. We want to get practical here today. So have your notepads ready. Make sure you're taking some notes on strategies and tips you can deploy yourself, whether you are a content creator yourself, boots on the ground, trying to go selfie style influencer mode, right? Or whether you're a marketer or a sales professional, organizing your team, orchestrating all of these creators to crush an event and make sure that you go from a random picture of your booth to turning your trade show into an actual content engine that works for you before, during, and after the event. And I mean, hey, it's a lot of money, right? So you better make it worth all that investment. So let me go ahead and introduce our guest for today. He is a director of growth here at MarketScale, one of our all-timers. It competes for me in terms of loudest voice in the office. He's got years of Pro AV experience, crushing the trade show game, crushing the content game. We're here to introduce Mr. Ben Thomas.
I'm flattered.
How was that intro? Was that good enough for you?
I don't know. I'm not one usually for long-winded introductions, but I'll accept it this time, I guess.
Well, it's my show here. If it's anything, it's long-winded. Okay, so thank you for being here, Ben, and looking forward to having your perspectives here, folks in the chat. I'm going to be asking you some questions there in chat, so make sure you're ready to type them out as we start to dig in here. But good to see everyone. Okay, so Ben, let's set the stage here for our audience, right? This is the trade show reality a lot of people face in B2B. Okay, spending $50K, $100K, $200K, you're dropping fat stacks on a show, and leadership's asking you, what's the ROI? What's the strategy for securing leads? Can we cut this next year? Is this worth the investment? Okay. Now, we all love the trade show. It's a great social experience. A lot of handshake deals, a lot of word of mouth evangelism for, your brand, your personal brand. But what I still see too much of is a lack of content strategy at the trade show. Right? And what I often see is folks treating a trade show more like a booth photo moment. Hey, we were here, snap, done. Right? But failing to take full advantage of what a trade show really is. And it's one of the few times throughout the entire year that you have an organized gathering of your entire community. Should this not be a content explosion where you tap into your colleagues, your customers, your channel partners, prospects, random attendees, and involve them in content that's going to serve your brand, that's going to move the needle on your business goals, right? So Ben, question for you to kick us off here. What's the real pain that you see marketers feel at shows right now? Is it budget pressure? Is it headcount cuts? Is it questions about AI? What would you say?
Yeah, well, no, that's a good question, Daniel. And I'm fortunate enough to sort of get the perspective from marketers literally every single day, because half of my job is on the sales and growth side. The other half is sort of on the marketing content. And sometimes it ebbs and flows on others and which one's, 80-20 and the other. But, part of my job is as I get to talk to these people, whether they're clients, whether they're prospects, whoever, there's kind of a few commonalities, right? Time being one of them. I don't have the time to do this. My team doesn't have the time to do this. Budget, which is, it's an interesting one, right? But a lot of times it can be, a challenging one because you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases on trade shows or events or travel or whatever. And then team, right? A lot of times people have, team members either leave or they're trying to reduce headcount or they're trying to add headcount or figure out how they could take on some new responsibilities because maybe the the sales and marketing and revenue unit has merged, or maybe, you know, there's a lot of different kind of catalysts, right? But usually it's one of those three, right? The time, the budget, or the tools are some of the biggest challenges. And now historically, so we'll talk about trade shows for a second. So trade shows historically have been the largest chunk of that budget specifically, right? And in a lot of cases, and a lot of folks I talk to, upwards of like 50%, right? So there is an assumption that, okay, 50% of my leads or 50% of my deals that I close at minimum are going to come from this expense. And the reality is, if we keep continuing to do trade shows sort of the way that we did pre-COVID and treat them the same way and assume that they're the same, we're not going to get quite the value out of them that we used to, right? And there's still an absolute ton of value in shows. But like you mentioned, one of the largest values now is that it is a collection of your community, right? And whether obviously handshakes and hangovers and all that, but it is now the place where, hey, you gripe all year about not being able to get that customer in a room to get a testimonial. Guess who's there? Guess who that partner, you know, that reseller partner that you complain about not getting enough priority and content created during the year over. Guess who's there? Guess who's at your booth? That's guy who you can't get to film something. Guess who's there? Guess who's at your booth, right? So all of the excuses sort of kind of start going away whenever you talk about trade shows, because it really is the conglomeration of a lot of those different people in one place. And we'll talk about like details and objections, and I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. You know, we'll talk about that later in the show. But I think that's a good starting point for us, Daniel.
Totally agree. And look, one of our favorite things here at MarketScale, you know, like our mottos here is end corporate feeder, right? And I think as much as the trade show is a moment where folks come out of their shell, where they loosen up a little bit, where it's, hey, it's a day away from the desk, right? I have an excuse to drink a beer at 3 p.m. while I'm on company time, right? You
don't start at like 11. My goodness.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Maybe I'm a little too tame. I got to pick up the pace here. As much as the trade show is that, why is it that all the content that comes out of trade shows that we see from so many B2B players are still so corporate theater, still so overscripted, overacted, or just shallow? It's just a picture of your booth, or it's just a one selfie. I was here, right? Where are the insights? Where's that authenticity? Where's that community?
Yeah.
This is what we challenge you guys to bring to the table more at your upcoming trade shows. And we're going to get exactly into how to change your mindset on it and how to actually structure capturing more content from your people here in a minute.
Yeah, well, Daniel, I'll tell you too, and this is a sort of a moment of empathy for us marketers. A lot of times, the reason why you see the one picture booth, the reason why you see a couple of little clips is because the marketer, the one person that's there, that's kind of been assigned that show, is the only one doing it, right? And there are reasons for that, but the challenge becomes, look, how do you grow beyond that, right? You've got different team members, you've got different partners, you've got executives that also can create with you and for you. Not only is it like sort of an opportunity to get those people heard, but it also is like, especially on the sales side, you know, a salesperson that won't create with you is like a salesperson 15 years ago saying, I'm not going to use email, right? You know, so there are ways to really help share out that responsibility, and you know, not require the marketing person to have to kind of own all of that themselves and be the only person that's doing anything.
Yep, agreed. So, folks, question for our chat here. I want y'all's input here on your big trade show priorities coming into Q1. I know a lot of you guys, whether you're on the call or maybe folks watching this back, right, have trade shows that they are gearing up for in February, that they're just coming off of here mid-January. This is a hot season for trade shows. So I'd love to hear in chat, everyone. Let's get those wheels moving. What are some of y'all's main priorities at your upcoming trade shows? What's motivating your business decisions, your boots on the ground? What are you really looking to accomplish when you guys are at your upcoming trade shows? I see lead gen. I'm thinking that's going to be a common one. Yep. We've got brand awareness, pre-event meetings. I like that. Let's put a pin in that one because we're going to come back to that. New product awareness and promotion, channel partner engagement. Hunter, nice. general content capture. Vaughn, love to see it. Thought leadership, post-event comms. I mean, yes, this is huge, everyone.
Can we just say everything? We want to do everything.
Everything, yeah. These are great. And okay, so let me shout out Laura's answer here. Create a memorable experience. This is maybe one of the most important things that we can all take away from today's workshop and apply to future trade show boots on the ground. Are you making your booth a memorable experience, not only for the people that are there working it, but for everyone coming by the booth? And what role does content play in that, right? So let's start getting practical now. So I want to kick our strategy off here with a bit of a scoreboard shift, okay? Now, one of the main things we go into a trade show seeking is, drum roll, the badge scan. Yay, confetti. We all want those badge scans, okay? We want to make sure we get those leads. We follow up with those leads. We say, thanks for coming by the booth. You want to book some time with us? Maybe you reach out to them for a little happy hour moment. Great. But badge scans can't be the goal. And I think we all kind of implicitly know that. The badge scan is not the hottest lead, right? It's the lowest level of intent. So let's map this out. If we're to map out the trade show intent ladder here from lowest to highest, at the lowest, you've got a walk by or a glance. Someone saw your booth is cool. Maybe it sticks in their mind. Great. Then they got a little booth chat. Okay. They chat up with someone on the sales team. Badge scan. Okay, great. We're still not even halfway, right? From 1 to 7 is what I've got here. So that's number 3. Okay, number 4, they booked a meeting with you. Yay. Number 5, they're actually engaging with you with, let's say, some follow-up emails. You've got a comms channel going. Number 6, are they contributing to content with you? Are they involved in your community? And then number 7, right? Trade show intent ladder is you got deal motion off of this. You closed a deal. Here's another question for you guys. What do you actually measure today as your ROI from the trade show? Badge scans, meetings, or something else? What's your actual metric? When you come back off that trade show, you say, I got X. And that is what you use to gauge whether it was worth the investment. Would love to hear from the squad there. But Ben, what are your thoughts here on this trade show intent ladder and where content slots in?
Yeah, so I'll sort of do a peek behind the curtain on I guess maybe my trade show, specifically to start pre-show trade show strategy, right? So you kind of broke down those levels of intent, right, with the badge scan and the visit sort of being that lowest rung. It still continues to be, and I see it in the chat right now, badge scans still continue to be one of the most heavily tracked metrics. And it's hilarious because they charge you $1,500 for the scanner and a badge scan. I've seen people literally scan badges off of pictures on social media. They're somebody's picture that they posted and there's a badge and they'll scan it with their app, right?
It's great.
So it's sort of it's very easy to cheat and manufacture it. But typically, obviously, when I go to shows, I'm not an exhibitor, but the same idea can be tracked there. So before I ever go to the show, a lot of times I'll have a day or two blocked out for partner enablement, or I'm going to visit on site or something like that. So I'm aware that all of the people who I could potentially see as a prospect, I won't be able to see. So that's why for me, the pre-show is so important. So I'll use an example. So right now I'm going to a show called AHR next week, which is an HVAC show. I will say, so I know that I'm going to be doing a lot of a partner enablement out there, but before the show, I'll identify, let's just call it 50, 100 targets, whatever, it'll vary from show to show. And I'll actually reach out to them and say, hey, I'm going to be there. I've got a lot of resources dedicated. I've got team members there, but I recognize that I probably won't have a ton of time to stop by your booth, but I still would like to create some value for you before the show. And obviously on the MarketScale side of things, UGC, crowdsourced content. So I'll actually send them a quick little blurb or a quick little request through Studio and have them respond, and we'll publish that and we'll give it back to them as downloadable content. But you talk about lead gen, that is the hottest form of intent from a lead gen standpoint. Why? Well, there's sort of been some people who, if they've rejected it or self-selected themselves out, you probably know that they're not a real prospect. But before I ever go into the show and I meet these people in person, I've got a great conversation with them. In some cases, I've got a piece of content back from them. And then the third, I've given that back to them as a deliverable, right? So you talk about lead gen. This isn't badge scans, right? This is me going into a show literally where a lot of times I'm meeting people who've been full members of the MarketScale ecosystem, in some cases maybe even signed up before the show. So that's why the pre-show side of thing is so important. And Daniel, I know we're going to dig into kind of how we can set that up and how to set yourself up for success at the show and stuff like that. So I don't want to steal your thunder too much on some of that stuff, so I'll kick it back over to you.
No, it's good. We're going to dive into that here in a minute. I want to just reiterate for everyone, the reason I'm asking you all these questions, what are your goals, how do you measure ROI, is really because content can be deployed as a tool to move the needle on every single one of those goals that you guys laid out. So whether you want more lead gen, whether you want more brand awareness, product promotion, channel partner engagement, thought leadership, you want more on-site meetings, you want to create a more memorable experience. If you are trying to gauge or you're trying to up those badge scan numbers, you're trying to up those meeting numbers, creating content before, during, and after the show, and not just promotional content, but actually injecting content as an experiential device for engaging your people is a very effective way to get more meetings, to get more brand awareness, to get more lead gen, to get more badge scans, and to actually close some deals. And that's really what I want to impart on all of y'all today, is content as that applied tool. And we're going to go over a lot of different ways where you can launch content to up your content output, obviously, at the trade show, but also to make content serve those existing goals. Because we all know all the reasons why not to create content at the trade show. I'm busy. I have all these other things I got to worry about. I don't know that I want to ask my sales guy to do that. They have to man the booth, right? But it's not about distracting from booth goals to do content. It's about finding ways to bring content to the booth, for example, and have it serve your booth goals, have it serve, building hotter leads and better engaging prospects and making for a more memorable experience at the booth, right? So with that now as context, let's start to chunk this up into pre, during, and post-show. So we're actually going to get into some content game plans here, folks. So this is where if you want to take some notes, this would probably be the best place to start. Again, content serving your trade show goals starts before you ever get boots on the ground at the trade show. Okay? So you want to create momentum early so that all of these goals at the trade show become easier. So a good place to start here is to pick some primary outcomes. Now, like you all put in chat, you kind of want to accomplish a lot at a trade show. Fair enough. What can I say? Fair enough. You want to accomplish a lot at the trade show. So maybe you want pipeline acceleration, partner activation, customer proof. You want more thought leadership POV. You want recruiting or culture content. So now we're actually drilling down on content goals, right? And this is very important. When you go to launch content at the trade show, doing it amorphously, doing it vaguely, or just kind of trying to tackle content in general or at large is going to make it a bit difficult. It's going to make it so that you have trouble even tracking what it is that you're capturing, how effective you've captured it, and more importantly, it's going to make it really hard to decentralize content. So you want to pick some content outcomes, at least one primary outcome. Is this content meant to help me with pipeline acceleration? Is this meant to help me activate more partners, kind of nurture those relationships? Is this content meant to show off customer proof and impact, customer storytelling, a little peer-to-peer education? Is this content meant to help lead from the front with our people with some internal thought leadership POVs on trends at the show? Or maybe you just need a little bit of culture content and you got to, loosen up and showcase that, yeah, we know how to, throw one back at a happy hour too. Also valuable content. Okay. So pick those primary outcomes. And now, critically, before you step foot at the trade show, before you start mapping out your content, you need to map your human resources from a producer mindset. Again, especially for the marketers here who are orchestrating a content plan at a trade show, you can't do it all alone. And you also can't just call it a day by booking an on-site crew to capture B-roll or do some, really professional high-end interviews at the booth. I mean, look, that's good. I'm not saying don't do that. All I'm saying is you also have this collection of marketers there, this collection of sales professionals, often C-suite leaders, department leads. You've got customers, you've got prospects, you've got channel partners. Are they being involved in content? Are they being motivated to create content that benefits them as well as you? Are they creating content asynchronously? Or do you have to slot them in for 15-minute, 30-minute chunks throughout the day for them to even get it done? So this is where, again, you want to start mapping your content priorities to real people so that you can get intentional with what you ask of them so that you can actually animate this whole orchestra to create content for you. So a good place to start here is to, again, map internal versus external. Who are the internal voices that are going to be there that need to participate in content? Subject matter experts, other marketers, the sales team, executives. Look, a quick 10 minutes does count. If they can get out their phone and give a POV, selfie style, what they learned at the show, that's going to be useful for a montage, for a trade show recap. So everyone should be contributing to content in some way. Map out that entire roster of people that's going to be at the show. Then externals. This is the fun part. Who are the customers, the partners, the resellers or distributors or manufacturers, or any juicy prospects that you're looking to bring into your sphere of influence? Get them lined up because there's plenty of ways to involve them in content as well. Whether it's interviews, whether it's highlights, customer evangelism, best practices, tips, lots of ways to use content to nurture a relationship, right? Yes, the content is important, but think about the human element of this too, and how even just engaging those people around an intentional content deliverable nurtures the relationship, much like Ben was talking about with his podcasts, right?
I got like the first half of what you said for sure. Or sorry, the second half for sure. So if I'm repeating something that you said, I don't apologize because I'm cool and I'm wearing that cowboy hat. I'm kidding. No, but you're right, Daniel. I mean, I think a lot of times, we sort of, and I fall into this trap too, right? I used to do it all the time where it's like, oh, we're going to go in and we're going to have, I hope that we're going to get this executive testimonial, or I hope that we're going to get this soundbite, or I hope we're going to get that. And part of that too, and you mentioned this was actually kind of mapping those resources, sort of having a loose plan, right? What I would even say, I think a lot of times it's very like in our head, or, hey, we feel like we've got to do everything. I don't love the expression eat the elephant, but let's use that for fun. Everybody feels like they've got to eat the elephant. So what I actually would recommend, especially as you're really thinking about some of these things, like there are some very easy wins, but I would say maybe start with even just 5 videos, right? So like think about, if I'm creating or 5 pieces of content, or if I'm creating from a show, maybe I want to do a couple of product spotlights, and maybe I want one testimonial, maybe I want one executive soundbite, and then, one example from our customer and partner. That's very doable, right? It's very reasonable. And it's something you probably have 1 or 2 sales guys or gals out there who can kind of do that with you, right? The marketing team will film some, sales team will film some, your executive team may even want to come in and film some. And that's a good starting point, right? It is a successful rollout if you create 5 really great pieces of content that you share on social media. So as we're even talking about some of this stuff too, it's important to not think like I've got to do 50 videos or else it's a total bust or a total waste of time. Right. You may only have, depending on like deal size and depending on, deal velocity, you may have 3 real meaningful prospects out on site at a trade show. Getting one soundbite from one of them, or one piece of content or one piece of nurture content from them, could be for you worth millions of dollars, right? So that's the reason why we're thinking about, like, don't try and come in and swing for the fences necessarily. Let's map out a couple of resources based off of the people that we have. We know that Scotty loves having his phone out. We know that he's at every event. Hey, Scotty, grab us just a couple of little videos and a couple of little pieces of B-roll from the booth. Share your thoughts about the show. Hey, Stacy, who's our CTO, share why we just announced this product and sort of the why behind it. Right. A lot of those things are very tangible and very doable and don't require like these days and days and days of effort. So as we're talking about this, as we talk about planning, like, don't feel like you got to aim for the sun or the moon or anything like that. Right. Let's start with 5. Let's knock those things out and let's do it.
Vaughn, I'm address this comment. I like this. As a first timer, it's been tough for me to estimate the conversion ratio of raw capture to valuable content. Fair, right? And I think this reflects some of the pain points around decentralizing too. So as you start to, bring more people to the table to create, as you start to, widen the horizon of potential content to capture at the trade show, now suddenly you're up against that opportunity cost, scale where it's like, okay, yeah, this all does sound good. I do want all this content. But like, is it worth my time and energy to orchestrate all these people to create this stuff? And then what am I actually going to do with this? And do I have the infrastructure to help get it finished and published? I sympathize. I understand. What I would say on that front is the best way to make sure that the content you capture that's raw, just like what you capture at point of capture is actually useful at point of release, is to do the pre-show prep that helps you map that content to tangible business goals. So let's get content out of that headspace of it being, just to sort of evangelize, here's what we did at the show, or just to evangelize, or capture even just marketing specific assets. But let's take a step back and hone in on, okay, what are the core business goals that are non-negotiable? My boss's boss is going to ask me, did the trade show help us accomplish X, Y, or Z? Now, sit down and look at your content plan, look at the people who you have at your show and say, how can I align some of these chess pieces to help capture some content that's a low barrier to entry, right? Because some of it could probably be captured just selfie mode on someone's phone. How can I capture some of that content that's going to help me move the needle? Maybe it's I need more FAQs to help explain this product that everyone misunderstands. No matter how many times I show it off at the trade show, people still seem to misunderstand its use case or the specs. Okay, well, clearly I need some video content for them to educate themselves. Hey, scan this QR code, Bob, before you leave. Check out the videos there. It's going to break it all down in way more succinct fashion. You can kind of consume this as you think about if you want to partner with us. Very useful, right? What if you capture all that at the trade show? Boom.
So Daniel, I'll add to that too. And Vaughn, good to see you in here, my friend. See you at KBiz. It's interesting. I remember when we were kind of initially talking, there were some topics of relevance that were super important to you guys, whether it's, whether it's product specificity, commoditization, overseas manufacturing differences and cost savings, things like that. The trade show, especially for you guys, think about it as a place where you could source a lot of that, right? Because especially early on, so Vaughn's one of our newer clients, incredible company, Elver at Revishelf. Especially early on, as you're trying to build some of that momentum, just grab, get like a $20 clip-on microphone and like pull up an iPhone, walk up to them, obviously ask them first and say, hey, in 30 seconds, can you share, why being manufactured in the U.S. is better than Chinese partners or whatever, something like that. That for you, especially if it's filmed on like kind of a neutral background, that for you is a way to actually extrapolate the value of the show or the event, right? Because it may be tricky for that person to get on camera, or they may be more difficult. But now this could be content that you're publishing 3, 4, 5 months from now, right? So because you maximize that time at the event, your ROI is great because you're kind of you're creating value at that event with lead scans and badges and all that kind of good stuff. But then also now you're creating stuff that you're using in perpetuity and FAQs and sales nurture content and all these different things. So it's a really nice sort of just flag in the ground of like, hey, Timmy, you've been a pain in the butt trying to get some content from. Guess what? We're going to do it right now type stuff. And if he doesn't like that, then, that's one thing. But, it's a good opportunity really to use it as just a massive, thought leadership gathering, maybe even have a little ring light with an iPhone stand or something and do just quick little 90-second testimonials or thought leadership, right? Just make it easy for these folks. And you're going to create tons of just valuable stuff that you may not even use in the immediate future after the show, but now it's stuff that you can share after that.
So check this out too, folks. Let's wrap up the pre-show commentary here, and then we're going to get into during the show, exciting ways you can create content and use it to move your business goals forward. So, again, I said step one, you got to pick your content outcome. What is your content meant to serve that is business goal oriented? You have goals for your sales team, you have goals for your marketing team, whatever. Your content should be mapped there. So map your primary outcome. Then step two, map your human resources with a producer mindset. Who are the internals and the externals that are going to contribute to that storytelling? And last but not least, create a contribution mechanism. This is often where things break down. How are people going to get me this content? They're going to email it all to me. They're going to upload it to some Google Drive, and then I got to sift through a bunch of links. Well, this is where MarketScale Studio comes into play and can help you guys decentralize more confidently, right? So let me just share my screen here real quick. Here's a demo org for AMD, the chip company. You're on our radar, AMD. We'll get you eventually. Here's the requests page. So if you go to the home feed, you'll see the requests button, and you'll see this environment here where you can build a request. Now, these requests, we often frame them as a great tool for testimonials, for you to ask a customer for good storytelling, or for you to ping a colleague to submit a great FAQ video for your sales education library. But you can also use these requests as a literal intake funnel for content. So now when you ask that sales guy, that other internal, that partner to film content themselves, when you give them a healthy challenge to take a selfie, to film visuals, to share their POVs on their own devices and send them to you, you have a singular place to do that, right? So here is a built one that I made for just B-roll. So I'm telling people, just upload your B-roll here, right? So I might create two links, one for B-roll and one for all the thought leadership, all the commentary. So I hit get started here, right? And it's going to load this area here where it's going to say upload all the visuals from the trade show. So now if I was Bob, the sales guy, I had this link, and Sally, the marketing lead, said, Bob, I need you to upload all of the visuals you capture at the trade show. Rather than asking that person to organize all this content themselves, they can come in here and upload their content directly into this link, which is going to auto-organize that for everyone involved. Easy peasy. So now when it's time to make the content, it's already holed away in the survey. It's categorized into all the folders you want it to be in, well organized, ready to deploy for B-roll or for a montage, or even to use again in the future, right? And you can build all these yourselves. You just hit create here in the requests area, and you can customize a request with multiple questions as needed, how you want people to respond, customize the cover image if you want it a little more polished up. Now, what's cool is you can then take this link and then link it to a QR code, for example. Make it even easier. Put this on a handout for your people. Even better, what if you do all of this and you gamify it? You make an upload for prospects or attendees coming by your booth. Hey, scan here and upload your 30-second commentary on the biggest trend shaping the industry today. Best responses will win whatever, and we'll feature you in our publication recap from the show. Now, you might only get 3 or 5 submissions, right? It's not like just putting a QR code in front of people's faces is going to mean you get 100 people to send you content. But 3 to 5 submissions from people who came by your booth, said, yeah, that sounds engaging. Scan. They took a minute to film. They sent it your way. They wanted to be involved in whatever community building or, little mini campaign or game that you put together. That's a valuable lead. That is a valuable prospect that you can follow up with. That's way hotter than someone that just got their badge scanned at your booth. So again, pick your outcomes, map your people, and then make it easy for people to get you content, especially when you're asking them to film themselves or to sort of literally participate in filming something on their phones, getting some B-roll, giving some POVs. All right, so now let's jump into during the show. This is an exciting part here. There are so many ways that you can make your booth a content hub. Again, you can make your booth a content hub. There's no reason why you can't. Now, look, there's a lot of why we shouldn't do this that floats around in B2B. I understand. It's a bit, it's a bit of a shakeup to how we typically run our booths. There's maybe, an idea that people are too busy at shows, that there's too much going on. We don't want to distract at the booth. But let's be real, guys. Let's cut through the noise here, okay? There's a lot of downtime at trade show booths. Whenever I go to trade shows, I see it all the time. A lot of people standing around, a lot of people sitting around, conversations that are relatively inconsequential. It's not like people are booked 8 to 8, nonstop, every day at the trade show. So, involving the sales team or the marketing team or prospects or whoever in content at your trade show booth is not only a great way to create that memorable experience we said was valuable, but also to just elevate the entire booth experience, get more content out of the booth, and turn content into a nurturing and engagement tool, not just a marketing deliverable, right? Lisbeth, is this available for MarketScale members or need additional licenses to create? So what I was just showing you guys, that is for subscribers to MarketScale, right? So if you're interested, get in touch with Ben. He can always walk you through some use cases and see what might be the best solution for you guys. However, if your company already uses Studio, then you have access to this. Unlimited seats. Once the brand locks in, once you're subscribed, user count is unlimited, especially internally, especially externally. We want you guys using the platform, making best use of it. Then yes, you have access as a client. Okay, so during the show, there's a few things that you're going to want to do to make sure that you get more content out of your trade show. 1, you're going to want a booth setup that encourages content in some way. 2, you're going to want to deploy content as a tool inside of the conversations you're already having with people at the booth. Okay? And then 3, you want to clarify for your internal teams how they can participate in content in the most practical and achievable ways possible. So not the vague, hey, let's do content, guys. Everyone film something when you have 5 minutes. I promise you folks aren't going to do that. But if you hand them a checklist, if you hand them exactly what you need, you gamify it a little bit, you make it achievable, an accomplishable task, you'll get more involvement. So, Ben, I wanted to get your quick thoughts here before I break down each of these steps in a little more detail. What have you seen work on this front? What's your how-to advice for clients and creators here on the show to make their booth more of an actual content machine? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've seen kind of just personally, if you have sort of a designated, even if it's if you've got even a 10 by 10, just have like a little tripod with a ring light and like a cell phone mount on it, right? That removes like this inherent barrier for people to be like, oh, I don't want to take out my phone. Am I filming at the right settings? Am I doing all of that? Like that is just the easiest way. Like if someone comes in, say, hey, Mike, love the conversation. Hey, would you mind sharing just your story? A 30-second blurb about who you guys are, what you're looking for at the show, maybe some conversations that are important to you. We'll publish this. We'll give it back to you guys. You can use it as your own marketing collateral. And that you can do all that obviously through MarketScale Studio. But, that like removing that first level of entry or that first barrier of entry is really, really important. And then what'll happen, so like if I'm a marketer at a show, I'll train my sales team. I'll say, hey, we've got 3 to 5 guys or gals staff in the booth. Hey, just before they leave, go in, push record, submit, just have them say and spell their name, and then you've got all this good stuff, right? So stuff is being created outside of your purview as well, which is nice. And then also, like, folks are always at these events, the after hours, the happy hours. Now, there are some this is a good mechanism for the approval tool. Sometimes there's libations involved, so maybe you want to have some oversight in it. But look, people are already taking pictures, they're taking videos. A lot of times these are partner events already. So, wherever these people are, just make it easy for them, right? So, but I would say, yeah, at the booth, Daniel, specifically, literally, it's like a $15 tripod with a little $10 microphone, and there you go. I mean, there's your content hub. There's not even really that complicated, and that for you will be something that is meaningful and just being able to create some stuff. And then, like, obviously, I mean, even at other shows, like I'll walk the floor with a gimbal and my iPhone and stuff, and do some sound bites at other people's booths. But it's not as complicated as it once was. You don't need the setup that you once did. So now it's designed to be super easy and fun and scalable.
And this is where intentionality matters. Gamify your booth experience. That may be something that you guys are more familiar with already. You have already seen, a lot of those big booths, or maybe you're one of those big booths that has the spinning wheel with prizes. Then they do the giveaway at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. Or maybe you host little keynote sessions within your booth. And it's like, you've got one of those huge floor plan booths and you're doing thought leadership there. This is all kind of floating in the same space, right? This is all floating in the same environment of make the booth more engaging, give people a reason to come by the booth beyond just there's a product here or a service here that I may want to take advantage of. So if you're more intentional with deploying content as part of this, I promise you're going to see better engagement, because everyone loves to talk about themselves. Everyone loves to participate in media, even if they give you every reason not to. Okay. So again, a good place to start here is a good booth setup with a selfie station. Straightforward. At the very least, your people will use this. Ring light, simple backdrop, could even just be the booth. Ideally, it's, a branded wall or a step and repeat or something pretty. A mic is absolutely a must. Okay. And then some signage that invites participation, like a QR code. I want to show off this example here, which is a little self-serving. It's me. But check this out from the HR Southwest Conference 2025. Okay. This was the MarketScale booth here. What you see here. That is literally the whole booth. It was a content booth. There was nothing else there. There was no table for people to sit at with little brochures. There wasn't a bunch of, product spec sheets. I mean, we had information if people wanted it. We had our materials, but we weren't leading from the front with the typical what you expect at a trade show booth, which is all a bunch of product info. Our booth was literally just a media station. Full stop. Now, this may not be what we're a media related company, so it makes sense that we would do something this 100%, right? But for y'all out there, you can emulate something like this yourselves and deploy a full content station at your booth. This is going to attract way more engagement because of how out of the ordinary it is, because it's a whole podcast station or a whole thought leadership station. And it doesn't take that much extra planning or investment to create a space for content like this. Right? So let me answer some of these questions real quick. Kenny, will this recording be available? It will be all on demand. If anyone needs to drop, don't you worry. I'll email it to all of you personally. What gimbal do you recommend? Yep, agreed. Entry level ones on Amazon are more than sufficient. Totally agree. Personally, I'm not even always a gimbal fan. I'm a little old school. Sometimes I just like the handheld stabilizers. So there's no electronics. It's literally just taking your phone from your fingers being what keep it stable to like a rig that you hold. I do that a lot for my content. I like it because, gimbals can sometimes be a little finicky with all the balancing. Good giveaways for getting people to take the time to record for entries. I love that question. And BT, I'd love your thoughts here, but I wouldn't overthink this too much. Honestly, I may even invest in gear itself. You'd be surprised how many people are going to be motivated to participate in content if they can get a small set of lavalier mics for free.
Yep.
They're not that expensive.
100%.
You can
That's 100% right. And we do the same thing. Like anytime we have an event at our office, we do a number of different giveaways, everything from MarketScale services down to like webcams or microphones and stuff like that. Anything that helps drive that next sort of piece of content is great, because swag in general, like, God bless America, I love a good free t-shirt, but most of them end up in my wife's drawer and become like pajama shirts,
Right.
So that, and I've got more pens and fidget spinners and whatever that I know what to do with. If you give them something like a little $5 mic, and you could even buy them, you get a better deal with if you buy in bulk, that is like just money for people. And then what it does is it's sort of an auto trigger for them. If they want to take that, if they want to contribute, that they're actually going to be people that want to be part of that conversation. Quick example, one of our partners, Caterpillar, does this with a lot of their dealers. So when they have local dealer events, they will give some of these like some of the microphones and webcams and stuff to their dealers. And then those dealers just start creating like crazy inside the hosted instance of Cat. And it becomes so valuable for them, because that marketer for that main team is now just getting stuff autonomously sourced in. So it's a good foot in the door. People like it. It's something a little bit different. Yes, microphones, webcams, whatever.
Yeah, seriously. You'd be surprised how many people will feel refreshed by you giving them something actually useful instead of a trinket. Trinkets don't really do much. Now, I will say, if you're familiar with the company Big Ass Fans, they make very big fans, and their mascot is a little donkey. At their trade show, they have like these little squeeze plushies of a donkey. It says Big Ass Fans on it. Sometimes if you go all in on the kitsch and you make something really cute and memorable, that thing is still sitting on my desk at work. Okay, so sometimes that stuff does work, but the carrot, Roger, to your point, the giveaways, the more you can actually make these practical, right? Instead of trying to like really game the system to get people to pay attention to you, you'll find that is more successful. So, Roger, to your question, do you need a carrot to draw people to sit them down and actually get content from them? So sometimes yes, but here's my next suggestion. So my first suggestion for turning your booth into a content hub was create a little content environment, a selfie area, create an entire interview corner like I did. What you can also do, advice number 2, is that you can deploy content as a tool inside of the conversations you're already having. So you don't have to over-explain or over-contextualize doing content as this separate thing when people come by the booth. Rather, it's a natural extension of sales conversation. So here's a great example. When someone comes by the booth and they have an informative conversation with a salesperson and it's time to go, what's the typical action? Hey, let me scan your badge and I'll follow up with you. They're going to have 100 of those experiences when they are at a trade show. So what are you doing that's any different other than, practical specs and your products to differentiate yourselves experientially? Now, content can be a great way to nurture that relationship. So while you are finalizing your conversation with that prospect, Rather than saying, let me scan your badge, see ya, I'll follow up later, say, hey, man, this was great. I loved getting to pick your brain. So, hey, but before you go, though, do you mind if I grab 60 seconds of your thoughts on what you were just talking about, of those major challenges you're facing in the industry? We're actually doing a short little, hashtag Voices from the Industry campaign. We're interviewing a lot of people at the show and just showcasing, the hot takes, the real stuff that's impacting our industry today, or, their thoughts on this new technology or whatever. So would love to just interview you 60 seconds. We'll tag you and we'll actually brand this for you guys, and we can send it your way too when we're done. Want to jump in? Should be fun. Okay, so you are leaning on the charisma of a sales professional to use content as a way to get that person from being a random cold lead to someone that's now part of your community, that's going to be published on your LinkedIn, that you're going to tag, that you're going to follow up with a great deliverable. And guess what? You can use MarketScale Studio as a tool to brand that content for that prospect. Feel free. Any admins on here who manage the tool, you've got brand books in the back end, right? Where you can add branding to all your content, right? This is obviously essential for your basics for your brand, but you can come in here and make brand books for anything. So if you've got a prospect you're really trying to sell, you do an interview with them, come in here, make a little brand book for that prospect, drop in their logos, get that interview edited, deliver it their way, and say, here, I just made you a free marketing asset. Have fun with it. Also, we should talk shop because I think we would make for great partners. Da-da-da-da. So this is what? Content deployed practically, not as a gimmick, right? Now, content can also be a gimmick, and it can be an effective one. But this is content deployed as a practical engagement tool. Now, my last suggestion number 3. So number 1, we had integrate content into the booth experience. Number 2, we had deploy content as an engagement tool. Number 3 is the big one. How do we get all the salespeople and the marketing people and the CEO and the HR lead? How do we get everyone to film more content on their phone and get us more valuable stuff that we can actually use? This is where you want to lean on your MarketScale coach to develop a scavenger hunt or a checklist. This is one of my favorites. I help cook this up for a lot of clients. The biggest reason why people don't film at the trade show is that they're just not working the muscle, and it's a habit change. We've got all these other things that we would rather take our time doing. Making content's a little uncomfortable for me. So if it's an option, if I don't know what to do or how to get started, I'm just not going to do it. So instead, avoid overload. Clarify the content you need from your people, gamify it a little bit, throw some rewards in there if you want, but at the very least, make it clear cut. And we can help you guys build these. Just get in touch with your director, your engagement manager, your UGC coach, whoever. We can help you guys cook this up for your next show. But this includes prompts like, okay, answer this question, everyone. What's the biggest question you got today and what was your answer? What was a big myth you heard today and how would you correct it? Okay, film 5 different shots of the booth. Okay, film 5 different shots of people interacting around the booth. Capture 1 conversation with a customer. Okay, all of these are clear-cut goals. You're mapping out a quest board for any of our gamers out there. Okay, you're assigning your people quests, and they're going to go traverse the unknown lands of the trade show to find that treasure. But you're making it very clear. You're giving them the map, giving them the treasure description. It's pretty straightforward. Rather than just, everyone, let's be knights now and storm the countryside. Right? Clarify, simplify, focus it in for people. Eliminate excuses for not participating in content and make it actually engaging with questions that will stimulate people's minds, get them involved. So Ben, as we start to wrap up here, I want to get your thoughts on those different, approaches for engaging your people. Do you have any practical advice for our marketers or our orchestra conductors here for laying out pathways for content involvement from their internal teams? What works, what doesn't?
Yeah, I'll share this, and then I do have to jump. I've actually got it's a good problem to have doing business for a trade show.
I love it.
Look, typically, especially if somebody like if you have self starters, lead with them. They're going to be early adopters, and they're going to want to do a lot of this. In many cases, you've already got people that are on your team already doing this. The second best strategy is just to do like a quick assignment, right? Like, hey, Brandon, you're going to be out at this partner event. Would you grab like 4 clips vertical style for us? And that's all we need from you, right? So if you've got people who are self-starters, leverage it, make it easy for them to submit. But if you don't, clear assignments and clear sort of use cases and practical like best practices for uploading and stuff like that will be really, really helpful to make sure you get some of that content, and it creates ownership in it too.
Love it, Ben. All right, we're going to go ahead and let you bounce. I know you got to go. Folks, thank you to Ben Thomas for all his insights here today. If you want any more advice from him, follow him on LinkedIn. He's got plenty of visuals to show off all his great work.
Awesome. Great to see y'all.
And Ben's the guy. Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. Director of Growth at MarketScale. Follow along.
Bye.
All right, folks, as Ben dips here, I'm going to give you all one final piece of advice. So, again, you got to reset your expectations for the trade show, right? So let's have a scoreboard shift. We can't just rely on badge scans. We can't just rely on meetings booked. How do we get the highest intent action from prospects at a trade show? Content needs to be higher up on that list and needs to be a tool that y'all deploy to get those hotter leads and better engagement. We've mapped out what to do pre-show. Pick your primary content outcome. What business goal is your content going to support at this trade show? You're going to map your human resources. Which internals and externals are going to contribute to content so that it's not all on my shoulders, Mr. Marketer. You need to use the tools at your disposal, like MarketScale Studio, to simplify the intake of content. Straightforward, organized, right? So no one's confused about where to drop things off, and so you aren't confused about how to leverage all this content once you do get it back at the show, right? I've given you the advice of A, integrate content into your booth as an experience. Have a selfie station, have a podcast interview station, create an entire media corner of your booth. Staff it, make it fun, make it engaging. 2, deploy content as a tool inside the conversations you're already having. Use content as a nurturing tactic. Use content as an engagement mechanism and a community builder. And 3, cut through the objections, simplify things for your teams, and build out some checklists or scavenger hunts of the foundational content you want everyone to complete while they're at the show. Make it fun, make it collaborative, reward the people that check off the most boxes. So the final thing that I want to leave y'all with is that when you're filming your content, and more importantly, when you're crafting that content with the intent to publish it, it's important to remember that most of your market is actually not at your trade show. Let's be honest with ourselves. Again, most of your market is actually not at that trade show. So your presence at the show, the content you capture at that show, needs to live beyond the show. You need to be creating content that goes beyond, we were here, here's what we did, and we had a good time. You need to be creating content that lives beyond the show and works for you. So don't publish or capture content like you're talking to only the 30 people who stopped by. Map your priorities, involve your people, create content experiences, and capture good media, good interviews and visuals that will give outsiders, will give your larger community of prospects and engaged customers a window into your thought leadership, your POVs, what's happening, what it means. Use the event as a node for engagement rather than making it all just about the event and you being at the event, etc. If you remember that, it'll help you from day one map out content that will serve your business goals and be more evergreen.